All right, everyone. We know you're busy trying to keep up with, well, everything. Information overload, right?
Definitely a challenge.
So let's cut right through the noise. Today, we're diving deep into something really quite cutting edge. Google's experimental AI model, SecGemini V1. It's specifically aimed at cybersecurity.
Yeah, a really critical field. Gemini is designed to be sort of a powerful assistant in that constant fight against digital threats. Uses AI in some pretty sophisticated ways to bolster defenses.
Exactly. So think advanced analytics, real-time threat intelligence, all wrapped into this AI model. Now, if you're interested in how AI is tackling these big, complex problems, you probably want the key takeaways, without drowning in jargon.
And that's exactly what we're aiming for. We've gone through the research, the articles, the papers,
hmm
to pull out the most important bits about Gemini V1, what it can do, what it's built on, and what it might mean for the future of security.
We've got a good stack of sources here, so let's jump in. Where did this SecGemini thing come from? What's the tech behind it?
Okay, so it's an experimental project from Google. The main goal is pretty clear. Help out with various cybersecurity tasks.
hmm
But what's really interesting, I think, is its foundation. It's built on these large-scale generative AI models. You might hear them called foundation models.
Foundation models,
Yep.
right. These are the AIs trained on just massive, massive amounts of diverse data, so they can spot really broad patterns.
Precisely. And that huge training data set makes Gemini incredibly adaptable. It can take all that general knowledge and, apply it very effectively to specific cybersecurity challenges. Things like classifying security incidents or even figuring out how to fix them.
Hmm. So because it's seen so much varied stuff, it can make connections in security situations that maybe a human or even a more specialized AI might miss.
That's the idea. Its adaptability means it can, transfer insights from one area to another really quickly. Makes it quite versatile for tackling a whole range of security problems.
Okay, so powerful AI foundation. Got it. What about its key features? What makes SecGemini actually stand out in the cybersecurity space?
Well, there are several core capabilities worth highlighting. A big one is incident root cause analysis. Essentially, Gemini can trace a security breach or incident all the way back to its origin.
Like a detective following the clues.
Exactly like that. It could be a simple misconfiguration, maybe an unattached vulnerability, and importantly, it classifies these root causes using the common weakness enumeration, the CWE system.
Ah, the CWE, that's standard classification. That's super important for making sure everyone's on the same page, right? For fixing things consistently.
Absolutely vital. It
Yeah.
helps standardize how we talk about and mitigate software weaknesses across the board.
Okay, that sounds like it could really speed things up for security teams, help them find the real problem faster. Now, I saw something about performance gains. The sources mentioned some pretty impressive numbers.
Yes, the performance metrics are definitely eye-catching. Gemini showed an 11% improvement on a key threat intelligence benchmark called CTI-MCQ.
11%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and a 10.5% gain on another one, the CTI root cause mapping evaluation. These aren't trivial improvements. They suggest a really significant boost in accuracy when it comes to understanding technical vulnerability reports, attributing threats correctly, and recommending the right fixes.
Double-digit jumps in accuracy for those core tasks. That really is a leap. It points to much greater precision. And it's not just looking backward, right? It uses real-time info, too.
Absolutely critical point. It dynamically pulls in updates from places like the open source vulnerability database OSV and Mandiant Threat Intelligence. So it builds on its historical analysis, sure, but this real-time feed keeps its insights current against the very latest threats, even 0 days.
So the advice it gives is constantly being refreshed with the newest intel. That's essential in cybersecurity. Things change so fast. There was also this phrase, deep contextual awareness. What does that actually mean in practice?
Deep contextual awareness. It basically means the model doesn't just see a vulnerability or a threat actor in isolation. It understands the nuances, the surrounding circumstances, the potential connections. This deeper understanding allows for, well, more informed decisions and ultimately faster, more accurate incident response.
Mhm.
It's about grasping the why and so what behind a threat, not just the what.
So it's not just sounding the alarm, it's understanding why the alarm is ringing and what the potential fallout could be. And this is all powered by those huge data sets, including Google's own threat intelligence, GTI.
Exactly. The sheer volume and quality of data it learns from is a major factor in its effectiveness.
Okay, so we've got this powerful AI, impressive features. How does this translate into day-to-day cybersecurity work? What are the actual applications?
Right, the practical side. SecGemini aims to boost several key workflows by combining that AI power with real-time intelligence. Let's circle back to incident root cause analysis for a second.
Yeah, finding the origin of the problem. How does it help a security team, say, in the middle of a breach?
Okay, imagine a team scrambling to respond. SecGemini can help them rapidly identify that underlying cause. Maybe it was that specific vulnerability that got exploited. It does this by correlating the real-time incident data with historical patterns and its knowledge base of vulnerabilities. This just speeds up the whole process of understanding what happened and how to fix it.
So potentially cutting down investigation time significantly, that efficiency boost sounds huge. What about threat analysis?
Yeah, for threat analysis, it integrates with various security data sources. The goal is to give teams a much richer picture of potential threats heading their way. For example, in testing, it showed really high accuracy, over 94% in spotting critical vulnerabilities linked to ransomware campaigns.
Over 94% on ransomware vulnerabilities. Identifying those before an attack happens could be massive.
Exactly. That kind of proactive identification is incredibly valuable. And it also helps with understanding the potential impact of different vulnerabilities. It analyzes current threats, looks at weaknesses in a specific environment, and helps teams prioritize. Focus on the biggest risk first.
That prioritization is key, isn't it? Security teams are often drowning in alerts. Knowing what needs immediate attention is crucial. I also read it's meant to work with other tools, not just replace them.
Yes, definitely. It's designed for integration. For instance, with tools like OSV Scanner, which helps manage vulnerabilities in open source dependencies. Together, they offer a more complete picture of vulnerability management, from scanning and finding issues to guiding the remediation, even tracking software components in containers.
So it slots into the existing security toolkit, makes it smarter.
That's the aim. And there's more planned, too. Google's talking about adding features like reachability analysis, understanding if a vulnerability is actually exploitable in a specific setup, and support for VEX, the vulnerability exchange format, to make sharing vulnerability info easier.
Sounds like they're really thinking about the practical needs of security teams, like better integration and communication. Okay, it's experimental, you said. How's it being tested? Who's evaluating it?
Google's being quite careful. Testing and feedback involve selected cybersecurity experts and institutions. Early signs are promising, it seems, to help analysts with complex tasks like identifying malware, reverse engineering malicious code, even drafting detection rules like Sigma or YARA-AL rules.
Whoa, those are pretty high-level tasks. Suggests it's really aimed at augmenting the skills of experienced professionals.
That seems to be the focus. And to help push the research forward, Google's actually made SecGemini available free of charge to some organizations and institutions. Lets them test it in real-world scenarios, gather more diverse feedback.
Makes sense. Get it into the wild carefully and see how it performs. And as you mentioned, those benchmark results like the 11% jump on CTI-MCQ are providing some solid early evidence.
Right. Those metrics suggest it really could significantly strengthen an organization's security posture.
But with any powerful AI, especially in a sensitive area like security, there have to be ethical questions, right?
Yeah.
Challenges.
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge part of the conversation. AI and cybersecurity raises some significant ethical considerations. Bias is a major one. If the data used to train the AI is biased, the outcomes can be biased too, potentially leading to discrimination or unfair treatment. Safeguards are essential.
How do you even measure or mitigate bias in something trained on, well, potentially biased historical data?
That's a massive challenge. It involves careful dataset curation, ongoing monitoring, and developing techniques specifically designed to detect and counteract bias in the algorithms themselves. Then there's transparency and accountability.
Meaning knowing why the AI made a certain recommendation and who's responsible if it gets it wrong.
Exactly. It can be hard to understand the decision-making process of complex AI models, the black box problem. Organizations using AI need to be upfront about it and have clear lines of responsibility.
And data privacy. AI often needs vast amounts of data. How does that square with regulations like GDPR or CCPA?
Another critical point, ensuring compliance while leveraging AI is complex. It requires robust data governance, anonymization techniques where possible, and constant vigilance to protect sensitive information. Plus, there are technical hurdles. Just integrating these complex AI systems smoothly into existing security infrastructures isn't trivial. And AI might struggle with highly nuanced incidents that require human judgment.
So, technical integration, potential limitations, and understanding subtlety. And the regulatory landscape is still evolving too, I imagine.
It is. There can be gaps, putting pressure on organizations to develop their own strong internal ethical guidelines for AI use while waiting for clearer regulations.
Okay, so potential benefits, but also some really significant hurdles and ethical tightropes to walk. Looking ahead, then, what are Google's future plans for SecGemini? Where do they see it going?
Well, the roadmap involves making it even more capable, expanding its applications. A big focus is improving its ability to process and analyze that real-time data even faster and more effectively. Think quicker detection, more timely responses.
So, sharpening that real time edge.
Precisely. And they'll keep folding in the feedback from those expert testers to make sure it really meets the practical needs of security pros. The long-term hope, I think, is that SecGemini, or models like it, will genuinely revolutionize key cybersecurity workflows, making threat mitigation much more efficient and accurate.
A potential game changer for how organizations defend themselves. But Google is also stressing their commitment to tackling those ethical issues we just discussed.
Yes, they emphasize balancing innovation with privacy, transparency, and accountability. It's a balancing act they acknowledge is crucial.
And this inevitably leads back to the human element. You mentioned earlier that roles might shift.
It seems almost certain. As AI takes over more of the routine analysis and pattern matching, the demand will likely grow for cybersecurity professionals who can manage these AI systems, interpret their complex outputs, and make those crucial judgment calls. It's less about replacement, more about collaboration and evolving skill sets. New roles might emerge focused purely on AI oversight and security.
A shift towards managing the AI, guiding it, understanding its outputs, rather than doing all the legwork manually.
That's the likely trajectory, yes.
Let's maybe dive a bit deeper into those ethical considerations again. They seem so central. You mentioned privacy and data responsibility.
Right. AI systems, especially foundation models, need huge amounts of data. This immediately brings up questions about where that data comes from, whether it includes personal or sensitive information, and how it's protected. Robust governance frameworks are absolutely essential here, not just for compliance with laws like GDPR, but for maintaining user trust.
And fairness, avoiding discrimination.
Yes. If the training data reflects historical biases, maybe certain groups were disproportionately flagged in the past, the AI could learn and perpetuate those biases, actively working to identify and mitigate these biases in the algorithms, and the data is paramount to ensure fair outcomes. It's an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
Accountability and transparency, making sure we know who or what is responsible.
Crucial. When an AI contributes to a security decision, especially one with significant consequences, there needs to be clarity on responsibility. And stakeholders, whether they're security analysts or company leaders, need at least some level of understanding about how the AI reached its conclusions. Complete opaqueness isn't really sustainable.
Which points towards the need for strong oversight, right?
Yeah.
Governance structures.
Exactly. Effective governance is key. This means setting up processes to oversee the entire AI lifecycle, from development to deployment and monitoring. It involves defining clear roles and responsibilities, educating everyone involved about the ethical risks, and having mechanisms in place to continually assess and manage those risks. It's about building ethics into the system from the ground up.
So, to wrap things up a bit, this deep dive really shows SecGemini V1 as, well, a potentially transformative piece of technology for cybersecurity. Its ability to analyze complex situations, use real-time intelligence, improve incident response. It's all very promising.
Definitely represents a significant advancement in applying AI to shore up our digital defenses. Still experimental, of course, but the potential is clear.
But, and it's a big but, it comes hand in hand with those critical ethical considerations, bias, privacy, transparency, accountability that absolutely have to be addressed carefully as it develops.
They are inseparable from the technology itself. Responsible development is key.
So hopefully everyone listening now has a clearer picture of this major development sitting at the crossroads of AI and cybersecurity. And that leaves us with maybe a final thought to chew on.
Yeah.
Given these rapid AI advancements like SecGemini V1, how are the day-to-day jobs and responsibilities of cybersecurity professionals going to change in the next, say, 5 or 10 years?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, what can people and organizations start doing now to prepare for that shift, ensuring they use these powerful tools effectively and, crucially, ethically?
That's the core question, isn't it? It requires proactive thinking, continuous learning, and a real commitment to responsible implementation. The intersection of AI and cybersecurity is only going to become more important.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating and vital space to watch. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring it and think about the wider implications. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.